healthcare is like Exhibit A for the fact that we, the people, need to stand up and say, no, we will not allow our fellow citizens to die because they don't have access to healthcare. That is wrong. Now, the other interesting thing about it, and many of us can do this because of faith, because we all know Jesus, in the Christian tradition, Jesus is about healing, right? We know Jesus is always about healing and bringing to fullness. We all know that all faiths share the commitment to the dignity of life and to the care that we have for each other. Well, healthcare kind of seems to be an extension of those principles, and that it is a pro-life stance to expand Medicaid and take care of our people. Now, one of the things that I've been doing more boldly of late is saying that people cannot be just pro-birth. If you're only about the issue of abortion, hello, what about once people are living and breathing? Shouldn't we have a bit more care? But the challenge is to get in a position where we can talk to each other without name calling or without, what can I say? Demonizing. That's a very good word. Excellent. Demonizing. One or the other. We were in, where were we? Red Oak? No, it wasn't Red Oak. Mason City. We were in Mason City, Iowa, and the bus is there. We're doing, door knocking, and a group showed up to protest us because we were the liberal nuns, and that was wrong. And what happened was I went over to try to talk to them, try to see what their worry was. Well, their worry was we were the liberal nuns, and that was wrong. But trying to get underneath their worry or their fear, they were so committed to opposing us that they'd walk away every time I tried to ask a question about, well, what's your concern? What do you think about this? What's going on? And quite frankly, I was in one of my better moods, so I really was open. I mean, it's hard to do sometimes. I mean, let's be real, it's hard to do. But the thing that I know is that when fear rises, it's very difficult to have those conversations. It's very difficult to break through, to hear that deeper story. And usually when people are so resistant, myself included, there is some deeper story going on. Now, what I have found for myself is that it is really important to stay grounded in a spiritual place that is deeper, broader, how can I say this? To be grounded in the reality of God in our lives, in some way, however you find it, wherever you find your values. It is so important to be rooted in the depth of what we believe so that we can stay at this. And some of you have heard me talk about a retreat I had in December of 2011, where my retreat director annoyingly pushed me to radically accept everyone. Now, isn't that a difficult one? That was just too annoying for words. But I discovered I did have a list of people that I really wanted to vote off the island. They would be much better off someplace else, not in my world. And what my retreat director pushed me to was to radically accept even them. Two things dawned on me. One was that I was probably on their vote them off the island list, so that wasn't going to get us too far. But the second thing was that if I was at odds with the God in them, I'm at odds with the God in me. And the most important thing in my life is trying to live from that centered spiritual space so that we can reach out and be the one unity that we are called to. Therein lies the challenge. So we were in, we were in Des Moines doing door knocking and going door to door, saying, please, we need your vote. And we met this grandmother comes and answers the door. You have to knock on a lot of doors before you get a good conversation going. I can attest to that. Yesterday in Des Moines, it was really cold and we had cameras following us, and it took us a long time to get to any door that had somebody home. But this grandmother answers the door, and sitting on the couch, her front door opened right into the living room, and sitting on the couch was her daughter and granddaughter. And all three are eligible to vote, and we've got our clipboards, and so I'm talking with her, and the grandmother was voting. And the granddaughter was going to be, she was 19, it was her first election. She was all excited about doing it. But the mother wasn't voting. The middle generation had had it. So they don't care about us. There's nothing in it for us. Why should I vote? But it was beautiful to see the grandmother and the daughter saying, but we need to be involved. It's our democracy. It's who we are. And then the sister I was canvassing with said, well, her grandmother, Marty's grandmother, had been involved in the women's suffrage movement. And Marty said that she remembers her grandmother saying, women always need to vote. We fought too hard to get the vote. We cannot betray our foremothers. We must turn out. Well, it seemed to really move the grandmother and the granddaughter. I have no idea if it made a difference to the daughter. But what I know is, from that conversation, is that, one, it was a surprise to the grandmother and the granddaughter that the mother thought this way about voting. And how, when folks are depressed about what's happening in our nation, we don't talk to each other. We don't share that. We kind of sink into ourselves and feel pretty isolated and alone. And that division is what's eroding what's going on in our nation and allowing the polarization to take place that's happening. In Council Bluffs, it was on September 18th, we had our first town hall for the 100%. It was a great gathering. We had a wonderful time, and people were getting organized in the way you all were coming in. We had round tables, and people were talking. I go over and talk to this one table, and this one table group says to me, well, Sister Simone, nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. And they said, well, we just want you to know we're Republicans. And I go, great, good, glad you're here. This is wonderful. We need everyone at the table. And then there was this pause. They smiled at me. They were pleased. And then one of them says, well, we're not the crazy Republicans. and what I realized was that it's very challenging these days for people to be in a mainstream middle position of trying to work some things out. It is very hard in the polarized politics to advocate conversation or finding solutions, making it happen. These folks didn't want to be identified with the crazy extreme of their party. And yet, we need their voice at the table in order to move forward. Because while I like to think I am the most correct in my assessment of what's going on, and if they would just let me run the world, it would be perfect. It's not true. Even I can see that. So the challenge is, how do we build the bridge to the conversation to move forward? And in Northern Virginia, Maryland, across the river, we all have an opportunity to try to create some of those ties and to model moving forward in a way that makes sense.